Hi everyone, and welcome to the real-time coloring version of the Spring Skies card tutorial. I am Marika and I am the person behind these videos. If you want to see the card making part of this, or if you want to see the sped up version of the coloring, there will be a link up in the right corner at the end of the video and in the description down below that will take you to that video where I will kind of talk about how I'm coloring this and everything, but for the sped up version. For a real-time version I have a little bit more time to talk to you about what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, and this is it. So right now there is a challenge going on over at Make It Crafty, and it is Spring Skies. It's actually a pretty simple video. You want to color any image, Make It Crafty image with a spring sky, and a spring sky is basically a blue sky with clouds. And you can color the sky yourself. So if you have just a character, you can do all of the background yourself if you want to, or you can do as I have done here, where I'm actually using a whole bunch of her build a scene stamps and put this scene together with those images. So I'm starting off here with the sky, and this is my first and the biggest tip, and this is a tip that I got from Zoe multiple times, and stupidly enough never follow, but this time around I'm actually following it and I am loving it, and that is I am coloring the image in horizontal strokes. So what I did was I went in with my absolute lightest color and I colored the whole sky. This is to remove most of the white, but also to kind of make the paper a little bit wetter so that it is more easy to color the background. Now, to get a background that is well covered, you have to go through multiple layers of coloring, and it will eat up your ink in your markers. I know, but you don't have to make a card that is this big. I have printed mine out to fit on about a standard A2 card base, and a standard A2 card base is 5.5 by 4.25 inches. And I printed it and then I cut it out with a little bit of a border around so that I can just go over the edges. Then I first went from the bottom to the top with my B000, which is the lightest color I'm using. Usually I would use a B000 as my lightest color, but I don't have a refill for mine and that has dried out. So I'm actually doing a little bit of a bluer sky than I usually do. The first layer was just the B000. The second layer I'm going through all my markers that I'm using for the sky, and I think it's B01, BG01, B00, and B000. So I'm not using that many colors. I want it to be soft, and I'm not looking for high contrast. I'm just looking for a nice gradual change. And when I went from BG01, I just added it for about maybe a fourth of the image on the first layer. On the first layer I also used the B00 for about fourth of the image, and then for the rest, the half that is left of the sky, I again just went over with the B000. For my third layer I went from light to dark to light to dark to light to dark. The bigger the kind of area you are coloring, the more layers you want to put down to get a more even blend. So then I'm going in with the BG01, and this is when I start actually overlapping. So my first layer I did about a fourth of the sky with BG01. with my second layer, I'm actually adding it a little bit lower than a fourth, and this is because then it will overlap with the bead 00, and therefore with that little overlapping, it actually will be lighter where it overlaps with the 00 than where it overlaps with itself. And that will actually give you more gradients or more different colors. Even though I'm just using 3 colors, it looks like I've been using 5 or 6. And when you're working at big areas like this, that actually helps with the blending without needing to go in too big of a difference in your color. And also, one of the big things with going on a horizontal line and not a vertical line is that where you do get the striping, because when you're coloring this big of an area, you can't keep it moist, and therefore you will get some striping. But as the stripings are horizontal, it looks like they're kind of pieces of clouds or something. So it's super simple, and I really like that idea. To color in my clouds, I actually googled a spring sky or blue sky with white clouds, and I saw that many of them that was really bright skies, the shadow on the cloud was actually blue because the sky was reflecting onto the clouds. So I decided to go with a blue reflection underneath my clouds, now using the Digi 01, like all of the same that I used for the sky, but not as much. And I topped it off with some colorless blender to kind of just push some of that blue ink back a little bit and give the clouds a little bit more whiteness, but still get them to look very dimensional because I'm using those. I'm also leaving a teeny tiny line of white just at the bottom of them, just to again enhance that kind of dimension. So for the bottom part of my background, I have this little wagon sort of thingy. I don't remember the word again, but it's a wooden trolley. Can you call it a trolley? Maybe you can call it a trolley. It's wooden anyhow. And because I want the background to be a beautiful background but not kind of pop too much, I'm choosing to go with my light E40s. You know, I love my E40s, so that I'm using my E40s isn't that surprising. But I'm using the lighter ones, E43, 42, 41. I think in some areas I'm using the 40 also. But I'm starting off just making these simple texture. I'm not after it looking properly like wood, because I don't want to have too much details again in my image. I just want it to have a little bit extra extra texture. So with my darkest color, which is the E43, I'm adding kind of lines that kind of represent the kind of grains in the wood. While on the bucket, which is actually a wood bucket, I'm not really adding that many lines, I'm just shadowing it. And then I'm using the E42 for my mid-tone and mostly E40 as my lightest tone when I'm coloring this up. And just kind of enhancing the shadows. To give it a little depth, I'm adding the darker colors at the corners and anywhere where it has a little bit of depth. I'm adding a little bit of darkness, and then I'm kind of spreading that out with the lighter colors, just to make it a very soft little trolley thingy, and bucket and spade. So just simple, just filling it in. I'm also doing a wood handle on my little bucket, just because I really felt I didn't want to add too much color. I didn't want to add extra colors. I just want to use the colors that I kind of a very limited color scheme. However, grass is usually green, and in spring it's actually usually much like this really bright green, but I didn't want it to be bright green because that will kind of overtake the whole image. So I went in with the G21, the G43 and 46, which is a couple of my favorite colors. And if you happen to hear my cat meowing, that is Gizmo. I just recently got home from work. This is the reason why I haven't been making loads of videos lately, and that is I got a new job. On the 1st of March I started my new job, and even though I'm a consultant and I don't have my consultancy yet, I still need to go into the consultant office and I work every day. So basically I go up in the morning and I get home at 6 or 7 in the evening, and then I'm just going like sitting watching telly with Christopher and just resting because it's been crazy. But yeah, so I just got home and I think Gizmo thinks I should cuddle with him, so he's meowing, but I don't know if you can hear. Actually I have a really good mic. It doesn't take up that much of the kind of sounds around it. Anyhow, into the grass. As you see here, I kind of do a zigzag motion, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to color so it looks like giving it the lighter grass thingies. I'm leaving them and then I'm coloring around them with a darker pen, and that way you make it looks like you have grass strands, that's the word, both in front of you and deeper. But most of the coloring I'm actually just doing a very simple blend. I didn't want too much detail. Again, it is a background and I wanted it to be a background and not a it wasn't kind of the same layer. If you do a photography, one of the big things right now is to, you know, go get that fuzzy idea where you have a very sharp portrait and then it gets fuzzier in the background, and kind of that is the idea behind the background, is that it's supposed to be a little bit fuzzier in the background, a little bit less seen than the character. I want you to kind of be drawn to the character, and I'm actually doing some coloring on the character to make that happen also. But yeah, I'm going over a couple of layers, and it's G24 and G21 and G46, I think. I will have all the pens listed in the description down below. Also, I will have all the materials that I've used listed in the description down below. And I will also have everything on my blog. So if you are one who still read blogs, I do try to make interesting blog posts with my videos, and I'm hoping to be able to post a couple of blog posts a week that is just kind of a coloring thing I did or something. Yesterday I sat down, I had a half an hour before bed, so I actually sat down and colored a little mouse, which I shared on Instagram, but I want to get those things up on my blog also, so you can go there and you can always you can follow me here, you can subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, but you can also follow my blog via email. So I have an email client I use, like the MailChimp thing, so there's a sign up in the upper right corner on my blog, and my blog is craftedbitcreations.com, but you can find the direct link to this post in the description down below. So yeah, that's I'm just using Copics on this image, and the paper I'm using is called Make It Colorful Blending Cardstock, and I have a link to the only seller. I think you can get it on one place right now. So yeah, it is my absolute favorite Copic paper. I've tried Express It, and I tried the No Line cardstock by My Favorite Things, but this is actually my favorite. However, I do want to try more different papers because this has a slightly grayer tint than most other papers, and I want something that is a little bit more creamy. So yeah, I do sometimes use Neenah because I feel that Neenah works better with like polychromos or pencil work, and therefore I sometimes use Neenah and I do base the coloring on Neenah. However, I don't get the crisp lines that I get on this cardstock on Neenah, and therefore I only use it when I know that I'm just gonna have it as like an underpainting, and then go in with my polychromos on top. And the reason why I do a underpainting in Copics is because Copics are pretty easy to fill up areas with color. It's a much faster medium than working with polychromos or such, especially if you want to have a deep shading. If you want to have flat areas, then working with something like the Prismacolor pencils are super great. But if you want to build up your color and build up the dimension in multiple layers, I love my polychromos for that, and I love a paper that have a little bit of tooth like the Neenah. Also, working on the gray tone paper from My Favorite Things is a blast. I love working on My Favorite Things cardstock. But I haven't worked that much with just Copics. It's usually when I work with pencils that I use those, and then they have so many different colors, so you can work on so many different colors with your colored pencils just on top of that, and it's so much fun. But yeah, we have come to the character. This is Annie. She's actually a part of the coloring folds tutorial, I think. For you who do want to learn how to color backgrounds but feel you are not comfortable yet, there is ebooks for that over at Make It Crafty, and right now the Coloring Sky ebook is at 50% off, so I really recommend that one. I recommend all the tutorials. Zoe is super good at making ebook tutorials. She's really nice about answering any questions you need in the Facebook group about the tutorials, and also they're very affordable. So I do recommend all her ebooks, but and with all her ebooks you usually get a couple of stamps to work with. She both have a section that is more of a going through kind of the basics, understanding how you want to think and how you want to do stuff, and then she have a number of different examples, and those examples are made on Digis that you actually get together with the ebook, so you don't have to buy anything extra on top of the ebook, which I think is awesome. And little Annie here comes with one of those, and I've colored her before. She always gets red hair, and I think it is Anne on Green Gable that have gotten me to give her red hair every time. So for her skin, I'm using my normal my go-to skin tones. However, I'm not using the lightest color, so I'm using only 4 colors for her skin. I dropped off the E000. I started actually off with thinking I was going to use the E000, and then I ended up coloring all her face with E00, and I'm like, yeah, nope, she's getting a little bit of a darker skin tone, and I kind of like it. I'm using the R30 and R32 to give her really pink cheeks, which will make her feel like she's out in the spring air and doing stuff. I think I really love it. She usually throws a little apple, but because that I am going to cut her out, I just didn't print that apple. Sometimes you can choose what you want. Instead I'm just coloring her up. I'm coloring her hair red, as I said, and it's my favorite hair color, I think, to color is this red, because it is so deep, it has so much depth, and it looks so super shiny. So I'm using the E18 as my darkest color, which is my kind of darkish reddish brown, and then I'm going in with the E08 and just elongating the triangles. This kind of hair, you can color hair in so many different ways, and this character I have a tendency to color this way because it kind of lends it, and that is what you do, is you do small triangles from the middle of her hair, but also from kind of the edges of the bangs and such, or the dark goes from wherever you have kind of a scrunchy feeling, like on her braids and stuff. And I make small triangles out of those areas, and then I'm going in with my second color and I'm kind of just elongating those triangles, so I'm making them longer and a little bit wider. And then I'm going in with my third color, in this case it's YR18. Again, I'm elongating the triangles in several different places. I'm letting the triangles kind of meet, so they end up being full strands. Other times I just let them kind of zigzag in between. And just making sure that in the deeper parts of the hair where it's a little bit darker, there's no white. And the last color I'm using is YR16. You can use like YR04 if you want it to be even a brighter shine, but I like kind of the shine you get with the YR16, and that is actually just filling in wherever it's white. I try to not go over too much of the super dark, because by going over the dark I will push down the darker pigment deeper into the paper, and therefore she will have a lighter kind of shadow, while if I'm careful and just trying to go over the white, the dark will still be there and I don't have to do a secondary layer to kind of deepen those shadows. Sometimes I choose to do it anyhow, but in this case I kind of I was satisfied with what I've gotten. So for her clothing, I was considering giving her like blue jeans, pants and stuff like that, but I started out with the boots. In Sweden, up until maybe 10 to 15 years ago, but when I was a child anyhow, I'm starting to get to the age that when I was a child is 20 years ago, but anyhow, when I was a child we only had green rubber boots. They only came in a military green with a beige rubber sole. That was how they came. We didn't have any pinks and colored ones. It was just those were the ones that were sold. So I decided to give her those. I didn't even shadow the bottom of the shoes because I didn't feel they needed any shadow there. And then I kind of like, what do I want for the pants? And even though here I'm going directly in with the color, I actually cut out a solid, I think, 5 or 10 minutes where I just sat thinking, wondering what color I was going to do. And I'm like, yeah, but I think I'm just going to go green with her. And I know that she is going to kind of melt into the background a little bit. And I kind of decided that I wanted to do that because the challenge is sky, and I wanted the sky to pop. I wanted her to pop a little bit, and she's going to do that with her hair. So you kind of, that is the first thing you notice. Then you see the sky, then you see the sentiment. And that was kind of the way I wanted the image to kind of be envisioned. So I decided to go with the same green that I used for the grass, I've used for the boots, and then I just added that to her pants. I'm just adding a little bit of shadow here and there. There are some spaces where I should have thought more about the shadow. The place I just colored, now that shadow probably shouldn't have been there, but it looks like it has a little fold there. So yeah, I just added I added the darkest color wherever I this is where I want the fold, this is where I want the fold, but I didn't go very, very deep with them because I wanted them to be pretty light. And then I'm just adding the mid-tone where I elongating the darker shadows, but I'm also adding a little bit extra shadow here and there, where she has softer folds is where I'm adding the extra kind of mid-tones. So just elongating, trying to make it looks like things are buckling and are folded, and I kind of like working that way. And for my last part, I am just adding the G21. Now, this isn't super blended, and I'm not after a perfect blend. I want to have a little bit more of a cell shading kind of a look for her. So I haven't perfectly blended them out. If I went over a second layer, they would blend out a little bit better. However, they wouldn't be as soft. They would be a little bit darker. And now Leia is coming running here wanting to cuddle and meowing. So if you heard another cat, that's my other cat. They're siblings. Leia is the bigger sister. She's the smallest cat. Gizmo was the runt of the family. He was the last cat out, and he is a 6 kilo just muscle cat. So he's a big cat, not overweight in any shape or form. He's just huge, and on top of that he has a lot of fur, so he looks even bigger, but he's adorable. Yeah. For the last part of my little Annie here, I'm adding the shirt. And I started off thinking that I was gonna do it white, and then I realized I'm adding way too much of the W4. And because I'm adding this much of the W4, it actually ends up looking a lot more gray. So I decided that, well, I'm gonna run with it, because who goes out to work in the yard in the spring in a white shirt? It would be dirty directly, right? So I'm going in with my W2 and basically filling in everywhere except where I want highlights. And where I want the highlights, I'm going in with the W0, which is the lightest of the colors. So as you have seen, all of the kind of clothing and everything is actually colored with 3 colors. You know, I usually have like 4 or 5, but this time around I'm using 3 colors, and that is because I want a soft color spectrum. And that was actually the whole coloring. If you want to see how I put the rest card together, you can do that in one of these videos. But I want to thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye!